Welcome back. You're watching To The Point. Ours is a country where the silliest or even the littlest things can provoke a controversy. The latest is an advertisement using the preamble of the Constitution as a background. The problem is that the preamble in the picture is the original version and not the one amended in 1976. Is this a silly, careless mistake, a justified decision, or a harbinger of things to come? My guests are BJP leader Sudhanshu Mittal, Congress spokesperson Abhishek Singhvi, political commentator and author Sudhindra Kulkarni, and the well-known columnist and commentator Ashok Malik. Sudhanshu Mittal, let me start with a simple question. In the advertisement that's created so much controversy, did you deliberately use the original rather than the amended preamble? Or was this an accident, or was it a mistake?
I would not say either of the three, for the simple reason that the number of advertisements which were issued had carried various pictures, and this happened to be one of them. You see, this relates to celebrating the Constitution of India as promulgated on the 26th January 1950, and consequent to that, the original picture as in the Constitution has been sent as an advertisement. So really, to make an issue out of it in terms of any deliberate, any contrived or any attempt to subvert the spirit, I don't think this is fair, or it should even be debated upon.
Now, Abhishek Singhvi, I take your point. Sudhanshu Mittal. Let me bring in Abhishek Singhvi. It emerges, Abhishek Singhvi, that on April the 14th, 2014, when Manish Tiwari was Information and Broadcasting Minister, the same preamble was used in an advertisement to commemorate Ambedkar's anniversary. So if you've done the same thing yourself, how can your party complain when the BJP does it?
Look, I do not know if objections were raised or it was stated on that depiction that it is depicting a constitution as originally framed on that day. That can certainly be done. But here, contextually, circumstantial evidence suggests that the BJP was clearly floating a balloon to elicit reactions. First and foremost, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad had a very spirited defense of an ally Shiv Sena statement, which was very carefully timed. This happened, and allies Shiv Sena came with a statement. Ravi Shankar Prasad supported it largely, and interestingly, it is happening in the context of this whole debate on secularism. The conduct of the BJP in the last few months, and you know the usual incidents, the Ghar Vapsi, the Christmas holiday issue, the circular to schools and so on and so forth, all of it contextually raises a very deep suspicion that a trial balloon was floated by the BJP. The trial balloon was tried out, and this reaction was being seen. The same can't be said of a genuine inadvertent depiction. And you know, there's one angle which everybody has missed out, and it's almost funny because the government involved. There is an act which people have forgotten, an act of Parliament, Karan, which says insult to Indian national flag and Constitution of India. That's the title of the act. And I'll just read to you one line.
Well, very quickly.
Whoever in any public place, any other place, burns, otherwise, etc., or otherwise shows disrespect to, defiles, defaces, or brings into contempt, whether by words either spoken or
I think this is getting a bit exaggerated. I'm going to stop you because this is entirely dependent upon an interpretation that this amounts to defilement, contempt, or something else of that sort to the Constitution. So let's get off that. I'm not going to get onto that because this is just your interpretation of the law. It will be probably contested by every other lawyer. I want to come back to the big... No, Sudhindra Kulkarni, I want to take up with you the bigger, deeper point that was made about how this could possibly be a harbinger or a hint of things to come. Now, your great fear, if I understand correctly, is that against the background of love jihad, conversions, and the whole host of Hindutva comments made by members of this government, you believe that the use of the original preamble could be a backdoor attempt to dilute or diminish India's constitutional commitment to secularism. Why do you believe that's a real rather than a rhetorical fear?
May I, Karan, answer the earlier question about UPA using the same image of the preamble in the context of Ambedkar ad, because that's something very important. When you pay tribute to Ambedkar on birth anniversary, it is logical and appropriate to use the original preamble, because that is what Ambedkar, as chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution, prepared. But what happened on 26th January, 3 days back, is with the Prime Minister's message on Republic Day, they have used an original preamble which has subsequently been amended. Therefore, it is completely untenable, and it has given rise to doubts and concerns. Is this, as you rightly pointed out, is this the direction in which the government likes to go? And there are several reasons for it. First of all, in the BJP's election manifesto for 2014, the word secularism does not figure at all. Secondly, in an interview that the prime ministerial candidate then, that is Narendra Modi ji, gave to Shahid Siddiqui, he actually said that secularism is an imported word, and thereby putting some kind of a question mark on the use of secularism in the Constitution. And subsequently we are seeing that when an ally says that this should be permanently removed from the Constitution, which of course cannot be done because part of the basic structure of the Constitution now, one minister says let there be a debate on it. It's good that today Venkaiah Naidu has somewhat put the whole controversy to rest by saying that the government has no intention of removing it. Of course, it cannot remove, even if it wants to.
I take your point. Ashok Malik, proof that Sudhindra Kulkarni's fears are real and not rhetorical is actually what Sanjay Raut, the Shiv Sena MP, said. Not only does he welcome the exclusion of the two words secular and socialist, but he adds, and I'm quoting him, if these words were deleted by mistake this time, they should be deleted from the Constitution permanently next time. Now, whether inadvertently or intentionally, doesn't this advertisement encourage people like Mr. Raut? And isn't that the great danger of this advertisement?
If Mr. Raut has certain views, will have those views irrespective of whether an ad comes out or doesn't come out. I have 3 points to make, Karan. One, there is a certain, and there was a certain enlightenment, generosity of spirit, and lack of value judgment on the part of the framers of our constitution when they went in for a simple description of India as a sovereign democratic republic without adding clumsy adjectives. As Dr. Ambedkar himself in a debate in the Constitutional Assembly said, there is no need to add words like a federal republic or a socialist republic because society and the polity in the future may choose to organize itself differently, may choose to organize its economy differently. We could have a unitary state, we could have a federal state. Let future generations decide. I wish that large-heartedness, generosity of spirit and that aesthetic elegance had been retained, and the Constitution or the preamble had not been molested in 76 during the emergency by Indira.
Ashok Malik, we don't seem to have a clear line to you. I'm going to have to stop you, I'm afraid, because it's very hard to make out what you're saying. Hopefully, when we come back next, we'll have improved the quality of that phone line, and I apologize to the audience if they've been struggling like me to work out what Ashok was saying. Sudhanshu Mittal, the problem is a second one as well, and that was pointed out a moment ago by Sudhindra Kulkarni. Ravi Shankar Prasad, the communication minister, has actually strengthened people's fears when he says, and I'm quoting him, what is the harm if there is a debate? Now, clearly, he wants a debate on whether secularism is the right concept for India, which also then suggests that he's not committed to secularism. You don't debate something that you have a constitutional commitment to.
Mr. Thapar, before I answer this, I want to show you one document. Now, this is a page, which is a page of the calendar of the Rajya Sabha, which has been printed this year. I'm so happy that Mr. Kulkarni very eloquently defended why this preamble was published in April because of Mr. Ambedkar. The same photograph of the Constitution has been published in the Rajya Sabha calendar. It's the same, it does not have those two words. Mr. Kulkarni, I don't think there is a context of Mr. Ambedkar when this calendar is
Will you come back now to my question?
And so there is a case with Mr.
Now come back,
Abhishek
Mr.
Singhvi,
Mittal, to my question.
Come back
to my question.
The chairman, just 1 minute.
We're running out of time. I cannot give you time to make every point you want to do.
Sir,
come back to my question.
Allow me to finish this fact, because this is very critical to answer the allegations which they have leveled. And the allegation is that it was deliberately done. I am saying the chairman of the house is a person who was nominated by the Congress to be the chairman. The vice chairman happens to be Mr. Kurian from the Congress. These are the two people responsible for the Rajya Sabha secretariat, and this is what they are printing.
Okay.
And if this is not undermining, and that ad is undermining, तो हिंदी में एक शेर है, मेरा खून खून, तुम्हारा खून पानी.
Okay,
So
I'm going to
the two of
assume
them
that
make
you have
these
no wish to
allegations,
answer the
which are
question about.
preposterous.
I'm
I
going
just
to
wanted
assume
bring
you
this.
have no wish to answer the
let me-
question
let
about
me-
Ravi Shankar
let me
Prasad, because
answer
actually
what
you're
Mr.
embarrassed by what he said. Okay, I'm going to assume that.
Yeah.
I'm right?
Mr. Prasad's defense of a statement of a debate. I think in this democracy, we are not looking at scuttling debate. I think free speech, free thinking, free debate is the hallmark of any democracy. And merely because somebody says there should be a debate on these issues, because there is a context again.
Mr. Mittal,
Socialism.
Mr. Mittal, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you. You've gone on and on deflecting with other things. The point is, when a minister who has sworn an oath under the Constitution to secularism says that there should be a debate on the subject, he's clearly implying ipso facto that he doesn't have a commitment to it. You don't debate what you're committed to.
No.
It's logical, I'm afraid.
No.
Abhishek Singhvi,
I think
let me put...
it is a very distorted interpretation of the act. It's
Well,
a
I'm sorry,
completely
I'm not going to the act.
interpretation of the act
I'm
for the
sorry,
simple
Mr.
reason
Mittal.
that a free debate is the first thing.
No, you don't debate a constitutional commitment unless you wish to change it. That's a logical position. You don't debate things when you want to change,
Why
unless you
not
want to change
debate?
them.
Because if they're
Let me bring in Abhishek Singhvi, because I don't want to make this a dispute between you and me.
no,
Abhishek
sir, if
Singhvi,
somebody is proposing a debate,
no,
and
just
if
a
you're
moment,
supporting a
Mr.
debate,
Mittal. I'm
don't
not
think
making
this
this
is
a discussion
anti-democracy,
between you
or
and
it
me.
is violating your constitutional oath.
I'm sorry, I don't believe you that when you say that you want a debate, that suggests that you're committed to something. You don't debate what you're committed to. A debate suggests there is another alternative view. And if there is another alternative view to a constitutional commitment, it means it's not a commitment. Let me bring in Abhishek Singhvi. How disconcerting for you is the manner in which Mr. Mittal is trying to defend Ravi Shankar Prasad? Do you accept that a debate, even to a constitutional commitment, is a healthy thing? Or do you agree with my presumption that if you want to debate something, that shows you're not committed to it, that there is an alternative view, which means that you can separate from it?
Karan, how can you debate something which is part of the basic structure? Suppose you and I debate till we are black and blue in the face, that secularism should be erased and an anti-secular word should be put in the constitution. And even a constitutional amendment by 2/3 of parliament, what to say 2/3 by 100% of parliament, will be struck down by the Supreme Court in 30 seconds. Then what's the point of debating something like that? Obviously you are debating, you see, if Gandhiji had raised this point, nobody would have doubted his motives. You always decipher something contextually, something in a given context. The BJP's context makes everybody hyper suspicious. The BJP brings in these things because it has a certain philosophy of life, a certain trajectory, and that is why, coming close on the heels of a 7-month government with 20 such instances, 5 such utterances by ministers and MPs, Mr. Modi's eloquent silence, and then this raises the hackers of suspicion. Perhaps if Gandhiji had said so, nobody would have been suspicious.
Sudhindra Kulkarni, you made a lot about how it was possibly valid to use the old preamble in an Ambedkar advertisement, but it would be wrong to do so now. Let me put to you an opposite view from Rajyavardhan Singh Rathore. He says that the original preamble was used because the advertisement was celebrating India's 66th Republic Day, and therefore the original preamble was a reflection of the preamble as it stood on that first Republic Day. That's his explanation.
No, that explanation does not hold water, because on the 66th Republic Day, what is valid is the Constitution and the preamble as it stands today, to which the Prime Minister and all members of Parliament have pledged their allegiance. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Let me put something else to you.
There is one more thing.
Can I put one other thing to you? Let me put you another argument made by the BJP. They say that right up till 1976, the word secular did not exist in the preamble. And no one would have said that as a result there was any question mark on India's secularism. No one would have said that the Nehru government was not a secular government. Therefore, if you reprint that preamble, the claim that you're making that this is somehow a backdoor opening to questioning India's secularism is an exaggerated claim.
Karan, in 1976, through 42nd Amendment to the Constitution, during the emergency, the Congress introduced many things, and many undemocratic, anti-democratic things were subsequently amended by the Janata Party government through 43rd, 44th Amendments, etc. But the same Janata Party government did not find it necessary to remove these two words from the preamble. And the BJP founder president Atal Bihari Vajpayee and LK Advani were senior ministers in that government. Why only that? When the Janata Party, BJP was founded in 1980, in its own party constitution, they have said that they are pledged to defending secularism and socialism. So where is the question of debate?
Sudhanshu Mittal, let me put this to you. If it makes sense to use the original preamble, then surely it would have made even more sense to have used the original preamble with a photograph of the original first Prime Minister who was PM when that preamble was actually the real preamble. But what you've done is to combine the original preamble with a picture of Mr. Modi, which might suggest to some that Mr. Modi wants to go back to the original wording and delete the word secular and socialism. That's another reason why this combination of the present Prime Minister and an outdated preamble is disconcerting.
Sir, there's again a saying which is, Kaji ji shahar ka andesh hai. I mean, things and motives are being attributed where there's not, and nobody's answering this. Similarly, I've just shown to everybody. If BJP has a foul intention, what about the Congress when it is printing the same thing? And as far as Mr. Modi's photograph and not Mr. Nehru's photograph is concerned, what is critical is the original photo of the preamble. The original photo of the preamble does not carry the photograph of Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru. So where is the question of printing his photograph with that?
I'm going to stop you because I've got Ashok Malik with me. I want him to have a chance to speak on this program. Up till now, we've had terrible trouble with telephone lines, which is why we weren't able to fully understand what he was saying the first time around. Ashok, I'm going to repeat that critical question I put to you and ask you to answer it. One of the reasons why people fear that this preamble is going to open some sort of backdoor to question marks about India's continued commitment to secularism is the way Sanjay Raut, the Shiv Sena MP and an ally of this government, has stepped in. Not only has he welcomed the exclusion of those words, but he's gone on to argue that in fact the word should be permanently dropped from the preamble. He doesn't believe India is secular. Now, whether that advertisement intended to do this or whether it's just happened inadvertently, but it's ended up providing an opportunity and even encouragement for the views of Mr. Raut, which deeply question the Constitution and India's secularism. Isn't that why this ad is unfortunate?
Karan, since I've missed most of the program, but I've heard some of the other guests off and on, I have 3 or 4 points to make. One, contrary to what Mr. Singhvi and Mr. Kulkarni may say, I don't believe printing an ad with the text of the original preamble, the preamble as it was on 26 Jan 1950, amounts to in any way insulting the Constitution or breaking some law, even if such a law exists, or tampering the basic structure of the Constitution. Second, the framers of the Constitution were wise, enlightened, generous, and far-sighted and remarkably non-judgmental people. They used very simple aesthetic language in the preamble. They called India simply a sovereign democratic republic. Ambedkar said, I don't want to use words, adjectives like federal or socialist in the preamble because society and future generations may want to organize the economy or organize the polity differently. And we should have enough flexibility in the Constitution for that to happen. Secularism was not used in the preamble either, but secularism is, as has been suggested quite correctly, part of the basic structure of the Constitution. It is implicit in the rest of the Constitution because separation of church and state, a state above religions.
I wish you had answered my question instead, though, because my question actually goes to the heart of this matter.
Finally, I do hope Mr. Modi or some successor government has the good sense to remove the word socialist, which is
but that's a different issue. Ashok, I wish you'd answer my question about how this ad is encouraging people like Mr. Raut to raise questions about India's constitutional commitment to secularism, and if the government doesn't support those questions, then the government is doing something by not doing something wrong by permitting such ads to happen. That's the key question I put to you. No, we've lost Ashok Malik completely.
I think the principle of secularism is absolutely non-negotiable despite what Mr. Raut may say. Secularism as it is practiced by some parties may be problematic. Socialism should certainly be removed from that preamble.
Okay, very quickly, Mr. Mittal, because we're out of time completely. Does the Prime Minister not owe the country an assurance that the commitment to secularism stays? We may have got an assurance along those lines from Venkaiah Naidu, but surely the PM should give us one as well. A quick answer.
The PM should give you an assurance if there's something contrary to that which has been exhibited. The government has done nothing which evokes a suspicion from the government's intent. And you know, these suspicious minds are basically political commentators trying to create dust when there's none.
Forgive me.
My simple proposition is, if government has to do something, it will not do it surreptitiously through an ad.
I don't think you
it will
should
do something concrete if something had to be done.
In that cavalier fashion. That is being unfair to them. I accept your point. The Prime Minister, you believe in your opinion, does not have to give an explanation. Many would wish that in fact he did, really because these sort of doubts simply detract from his greater development plans. I'm afraid we're going to have ended there. My apologies to Ashok Malik. This is, I believe, the second time we've had terrible, serious problems, and I do apologize to him sincerely. My thanks to my guests for joining me, and there we end this episode. Goodbye, good night.